Alright, I'm going to make a video here about, you know what, fuck it, we're going to say this. And yes, I'm going to curse on my own channel because it's my own fucking channel, because I'm pissed off. Here how it goes. Put this off the charger and I'll be putting it back on some occasions. Right now, I'm a little pissed off and I want to walk around and start saying this. If I became president of the United States, there's going to be some very much few criteria I'm going to be putting in my campaign. Number one, it's going to be pretty much what it's going to become is medical reform. Because in this country, we have not had a true medical reform of anything. See, back in like 2017 or 2018, when Trump had made, let's put it this way, he made opioids drugs that was put out from the pharmaceutical companies out of business. No longer need to be put in them anymore. Because the pharmaceutical companies and the government itself was making money out of that. So when they give you a pill just for your pain, you have the addictiveness to it. And I met some people who have been getting high on some opioid drugs that are prescription drugs. And it's wrong. Because of that, there's been some problems to some people. And I do blame for the pharmaceutical companies for making these things to happen. But yes, I also blame them, the people themselves that buy these things and sell them on the streets for a purpose of money, for profit. Because when you get high, you get addictive into the highness, and you want more of it because, well, it alleviates all my mental stress and everything. When you can find other ways to do it, exercise, get a hobby, do something, you know. But now for real medical problems. And I'm going to be very controversial on those because if I became president of the United States, I'm going to have to pull away all different types of experimental drugs from being experimental drugs as being medical drugs now. I know that may be some impossibilities, but I want that to happen. That should be my campaign promise. Because for so long, there's been so many people who have lived with chronic pain, chronic illnesses, and chronic conditions that worsen their lives. Even up to the point where there are some that are just like, there are some that became manageable, but they want more than just say, I just want people with some relief. Because it does involve with like mental health. If we can alleviate some of these problems just by taking any of these medical drugs out there, let's say for my medical condition is tinnitus. Now, it's not like life-threatening, so it shouldn't, well, some people say, oh, well, that shouldn't have to be a medical condition, you know, like, if you study it up, it'd be like, well, people have, like, hearing aids and it helps them out, or, like, sound generators, or, like, try to cope it with your brain, and it might go away because your brain can adapt into it, which is true. But then there are people that have, like, severe, moderate type, like, tinnitus, and there are some medicines and the clinical trials that are actually out there to help with some of these reliefs. Maybe not in the severe part, but I do want people to have like their severity to go away to some degree, call it reduction, so that way they can try to function out there in the real life world. Much like with anything else, like there are people that have chronic sleep deprivation, no sleep apnea, any severe thing. I mean, like I want to eliminate that. So that way it becomes more manageable for them to live with. It may not, there may not be drugs that can make it go away completely. But there'll be things where it's like, hey, it helps me to manage a bit better. And yes, there's some of these drugs may have to be taken monthly or daily or monthly or weekly, however, but it helps to reduce your things. Now, some of these drugs that they have was called human regenerations, and in some of their theories that it can actually make the reduction permanent, which is a good thing. So that means some of your symptoms that are mild or moderate or somewhat severe can be reduced down to some manageable level. To where you may have to wear a hearing aid, but at least your tone will be changed or be dropped down to that point. Much like with any physiological problems, like with pain, with uh, arthritis problems, or whatever. If there are drugs out there that actually can make some relief into it, real relief, real reductions, let it be out there right now. Because if I became president, that's what my campaign promise. The first thing I want to right now, and the first 100 days of my in office, and I may have to break some rules. That maybe have to put me into impeachment, but let's put it this way: I'm for the American people. And I'm going to keep barking every day and night on the freaking phone. Why have we not tried to take these out of the experimental stage and into medical production? Pull them out to every 50 states for all these medical cures that some people will call it, but it's more just reduction or for better relief. That's what I want. That's all I ever want for people, including myself. I don't even take it. I don't care. Just give me it and let it be done. Here be a pill or injection, whatever. Just give me it. Or a machine that has to reduce the sound of my own tennis. Like, say, for a machine that can help with people who can walk better or whatever. Just let it be. And part of that, when it comes out, is only going to be on some monthly basis. So I'd say for every few months, because they need to reproduce, like, say, the drugs. Let's say if they're injections or pills or whatever, then they need time to actually reproduce these things and manufacture them and send them out to like clinics or other places that need to be done. I'm down with that. We can work some things out with that. I have no problem with that. Then there is government reform. And yeah, we need to change how the government is because, well, see, the government in the United States here is so corrupted by the political parties and their powers. Time to change. No longer we need a Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, Joe Schumacher, Joe Biden, or any of these career politicians. We need them to take away. If AOC, who's a young woman who's already in office, doesn't see herself trying to become a career politician, but she already is, she needs to go away too. She needs to be replaced. Everybody does. There should be some term limits and some way of how their abilities are. Just taking back to what the power is. And I wouldn't mind putting some people in place to make this happen. So that way we can reform this country, reform our government, the way how it functions, the way how it is. So that way it is for the people again. So that way all these things about like abortion laws, gun laws, and all these other things, I just want this country to work in the way it should be, for the people and by the people again. Because what government's trying to do is tell you what you think they should be doing, but you shouldn't. And I'm not going to take away people's right to want to have an abortion. It should be between you and your doctor. That's what it should be. It shouldn't be about a governor to tell you how many days that you need to abort a child or whatever. If you feel like you want to abort that child on your own behalf, it should be about a medical condition. That should be about a medical purpose between you and your doctor, not some fucking government that has to mandate these kind of things. or put laws in place about with abortion. Much the same thing with about guns. If a person wants to have the right to buy a gun and own a gun, it should be. Even if you are a felon, but if you have a clean record, then okay, you can have your gun back. After you have a clean slate and you're now out of jail, and you should have your right to have the vote and to have a gun back. But if for some certain reasons that you fuck up again, well, then you're going to have the work your way through again, buddy, in jail. Because I do believe that, yes, we need to reform our criminals. We should need to reform our prison systems. Because let's put it this way, and this is going to become one of those statistics things that we're going to be putting into place. Have you ever noticed that there are more people who sell drugs that are be put in jail far more than, say, a pedophile would be? When you look at those memes, you got to research, and not so much that can ever put out in place, but yes, some of those memes with those facts does become true at times. If a guy who's pull out, say, 2 grams of weed out in the street and just give it to some schmuck up there, he's going to be landing in jail for 11 years. While a pedophile who's doing very bad things to little Nancy gets on to be in there for 3 years. Now, one of the bad things for a pedophile being in jail, he's going to be hurt by a lot of prisoners. While that drug dealer is just going to be like a cool dude for the next 10 years. But of course, those 10 years, that means he's going to try to learn how to be better about his drug selling techniques. Well, the pedophile is just going to get punished for being one in prison. And that's the thing. I say we should reverse that. If a man or woman messes with a minor, should be put in jail for a longer term, including on women. I'm sorry. This thing about like how women want to be equal as men, if you touch a little boy or a little girl because of your sick fantasies, you, Miss Pervert, is going to be in jail for probably 8 years more because you're sick in the head. You need mental help. Now, probably your sentences will go down low for good behavior. But of course, you'll still be considered as a sex offender, much like how a man will be. And much with the same thing for criminals who are violent. I mean, like killers, serial killers, mass murderers. Now, what side am I on this point? Do I believe that they should be locked up in life, or should it be executed? Well, that's a bit controversial on here. I know I'm going to say I'm pro-life, and I do want these people to be reformed, but at this point, because they're too dangerous, it's up to the state to decide, not me. Because as a president, if I became president, I cannot have the ability to execute a person. That's on the government side. But do I think that a person needs to be executed for killing multiple people? Only up to say if they enjoyed it. Let's put it this way. If they have a sick intention of wanting to harm people to the point where they have no disregard for life at all, then the punishment fits the crime. Then we will have no disregard of your life either. But if you have some sympathy for some people's lives and you just feel like this was out of anger, this was out of regret, this wasn't meant to be what it is, but it's what it was, and I was in a mental issue, well, then you're in there for life. And then, you know what? Fine. I'll find God in one way and I'll die in jail. I'll have God in my life. You know what? Good for you. Maybe it's a good way to find yourself in an institution. Or maybe if there's some way where you can be released, that's fine. I mean, there's so many reforms that we want in this country. including medical reforms like medical health care, medical insurance to be more transparent, and to be able to have affordability for all people. I know some people want like universal health care. There are some exceptions to that can be run by the government, but it's going to be on a certain limited budget. How what I live on with Medicare and Medicaid, if you expand that and give that to the people, there's going to be some financial problems. If we give them, like, say, a certain type of healthcare that can, like, pay for some things that government run health insurance they can run. Like, say you're injured your leg, or you need to go see a dentist or eye care doctor or hearing doctor, for hearing aids, whatever, whatnot. Even including for some for attendants. I want to put that in place. In case of what I'm going to do first is try to pull out all those medicines for everybody, including this. If they still want to have, like, see, there's a type of hearing aid called maskers, which they bring in their noise generators, and they can play like white noise and all that. I want that put onto the Medicare and Medicaid thing, because Joe Biden was going to put that on there, but yet there is too many of his Build Back Better bullshit thing that he put. And there's too many. I don't mind, like, say, putting, like, say, some medical policies to put in place. I have no problem with that. And I want that into my policies. And have the government plan say, okay, you know what, we'll do that. I know it's going to be crazy. No. If you don't do it, then I'm going to put executive orders, and me and you are going to have a fight. And yes, some of the courts will have a problem with it, but I want medical relief for people. That's what I want. That's all I want. I want to see people here in the United States to be able to be relieved of all their medical problems. Not just one thing like I see myself, but for everybody. For their health conditions. To have better insulin for their diabetes. Like everything else. Just so that way people can have the best relief that they can possibly have. That's all I want for people to do. That's all I want for people. That should remember my number one agenda. I don't care. I don't care what the government has to say, or what some of these organizations in the government that will want to say, because, well, I want to see people be relieved. And that's all I got to say. Because with the government not want to help for the people, and I want to help the people, I'm going to reform it, and they're going to get you what you want, including all these experimental drugs that's going to become a medical drug within a few months or within a year after their second clinical trials. That's all I want out of it. After the rest of it, then we'll try to figure out what we can do from here, including reforming our own government and our own policies and all these things. Because we need to think about America first, not about international problems. Alright? Y'all have a great day.